Hey, Crystal. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday.
Yes, I'm glad it's Friday. It's been a week,
Has it? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you and I. I was on 4 live events this week.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
Do I look tired?
No, we did the X Day Meta, and that was really good, I thought. There was a lot of good interaction, a lot of questions,
hmm
a lot of good things. So that was exciting. Yeah, these live events are good. The people are showing up, things are happening.
Yeah, I think that you have to do anything right now to keep it fun and keep it authentic
hmm
and not get stuck in that. Yes, we did 2 webinars this week, but we had
hmm
super high engagement on them because they are a little more authentic. Ken did one yesterday on what travel and tourism looks like in 2021. And I found it fascinating. I found myself listening to it instead of running ops for it.
You're like,
And I was
what
like,
can I do in 2021? Okay.
and I was coming up with I was like, oh, actually, I have questions. But it was really, really good. And so I'm excited to kind of be able to push that out next week. It was a great conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, for everybody joining, welcome to the show. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, smash the bell, ring the bell, do all the things, all right? I don't know. People say all these random things. So.
I'll have to get you subscribed for some trending YouTubers, and we can get you to do all the things.
Yeah, we'll just run through it, Welcome everybody that's joining. Make sure post a comment, ask questions as we go through the show. Want to make this interactive, of course. So if there's questions that come up or you have comments, feel free to post them. We'll feature them on the show as well. Mm-hmm. And invite people, if you like the show, invite people to come join. Word of mouth is obviously a big thing. So we want to make sure we're doing that. And today we have a good show lined up. I have a what in the name of research example for you coming up. We have Marco Vriens, who's going to be talking about switchable consumer. And then we have an interesting data point around Amazon. So got some interesting things coming up here.
I love that. I'm excited.
Yeah. Everybody, welcome. Why don't we get things kicked off here? And
Let's do it.
Let's do this here. Let me get this queued up. So we have this what in the name of research here is interesting because you're asking, essentially this caught my eye because you're asking a scale question and the answer choices don't reflect that. So you're asking essentially, when thinking about virtual events, how likely are you to attend the following events? So when you're asking a scale question like this, you want to make sure you include the scale. You don't want to not include it because you don't know how likely they are to attend a multi-day, single day, or the event series. There's no very likely or
you're just likely. Asking them. They just are picking which ones they would go to. They're not actually asking how likely they are to go to it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Exactly.
So then if they to do it, did you make a do it right slide or do
No, I didn't do a do it right. No, so
I was like, wait, so to do it correctly, you would have to have I want to go to a multi-day event and then pick how on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being least likely, most likely.
You could do 10. This would probably be more like a 5-point scale.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But it's fine. No, you can do 10 points if you want to be really sure, And then another thing is, the last option, not planning the virtual events, this option here, you would want to make that mutually exclusive and not have it just be its own option because technically you could select that along with any other options, which wouldn't make sense. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So it was a interesting example, kind of the face palm, what in the world, what's going on here?
How likely are you to attend a in-person event next year on a scale of 1 to 5?
I would even break it up further and not go the whole year, but maybe the back half of the year I would be once, there's a vaccine and so forth and that's distributed, then I probably would. But until that, I'm hunkering down at home,
Yeah, you're not even going anywhere for Thanksgiving, right? You're
no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. I mean, we'll still have them. It's not like
you're not canceling them.
Yeah. It'll just be here in Texas. So normally we go back up to Seattle, but not happening this year. So
at least you get to keep the sunshine.
Hey, that's true. It's been unseasonably warm, which I don't mind. So,
Yeah. Oregon right now is on their like 9th day of rain. And I'm going to spend January and February out there.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, no, I don't know if I'll last. I might need to come back for the sunshine.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
Well, let's bring in our special guest today.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear all about it.
All right. Here he is, Marco Vriens. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Crystal.
So if you don't know Marco's the CEO of Quantum Analytics. He's also a professor at University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. He's definitely the guy, I would say, when it comes to market research. Anytime we need something that's more sophisticated or advanced modeling, we definitely go to him. We wanted to bring him on today to talk about this model called Switchable Consumer. So, Marco, that's probably a good place to start off. What is Switchable Consumer? What's the model all about?
Yeah. So, the Switchable Consumer approach is a methodology and an approach that helps me identify the people in the market that are open to switching from one brand to another. So if you think about it, right, in any given market, people may be very loyal to one brand, and they may have a very low likelihood of switching to another brand. And so let's say that you are brand A, and and you're competing with brand B. There may be some people who are very loyal to brand B, and they will probably never switch to you, or very unlikely.
Right.
But there may be people that, even though they prefer brand B, they would consider switching over to you if your brand would make itself a little bit more appealing to them. And the Switchable Consumer approach identifies those people, and we do that via a modeling framework. So we don't ask it via a direct question, because we know that doesn't give us the right results. So we do it via a modeling framework, and that gives us a quantification of the likelihood that people are going to switch, who are at a competing brand, the likelihood that they're going to switch to your brand. And if that likelihood is sufficiently large, we call that group the Switchable Consumer group. And then we can profile them, and we can identify them. And the reason why that is such a powerful approach is because once I have identified the switchable consumers.
Marco, let me ask you a quick question here. So
yeah, go ahead.
Would you ask, like, in a typical survey, would you ask someone, would you be likely to switch from brand X, or how likely would you be? Or what does that line of questioning look like from like a practical perspective before you put all the modeling in place?
Yeah, the survey basically has two components. We ask people what brand they prefer, or sometimes we ask them, what brand they use most often, and that depends a little bit on the context. Sometimes it's preference. Right. Sometimes it is used most often. Sometimes it's called primary brand. Like, for example, if you would talk about credit cards, many people have multiple credit cards. So, then we would say, like, well, what is your primary credit card? If you drink coffee, then we might ask something like, on average, what is the brand that you drink most often? Something like that, right? Sure. So that is one question. And then we ask people to evaluate the brands that they are considering on the number of, decision attributes. And then we model the preference as a function of those decision attributes. And that model is the foundation of the Switchable Consumer model, and it helps us identify the people that are kind of like on the fence, either switching to your brand, or the mirror image of that is, people at risk, people who right now prefer your brand, but they may be, open to switching to a competing brand if that competing brand would make itself a little bit more appealing. So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. We have the Switchable Consumer; these are the people that can switch to you. Right. But you also want to identify the at-risk consumers, people that are at risk of leaving you, and you want to make sure that doesn't happen, of course. Right.
Yeah, I guess it's the inverse too, right? You want to make sure that you're identifying people that are likely to leave, so you can do something about that, and then getting those people that are likely to switch from a competitor. So how does this work? Is it, you say, like, this is a certain profile of consumers that you want to try to target? I mean, obviously you wouldn't say, or maybe you could get that granular to, like, Dan Fleetwood is likely to switch. You need to target him, or do you see it more as is it an overall like this profile of this group of people, whatever is like.
Yeah, so let me give a concrete example then. Let's say that you are a Wells Fargo customer, right? And I'm the CMO of Bank of America.
Yep.
And you're part of my survey, and you indicated that you prefer Wells Fargo, and you evaluated both Wells Fargo and Bank of America on a number of attributes. And my model now shows that your likelihood of preferring Wells Fargo is maybe 55%, but your likelihood of preferring Bank of America is 45%. So that model is consistent with what you have indicated. Your likelihood of preferring Wells Fargo is higher, and you have indicated that that's your preferred brand. But the difference between the two brands is not that high. So if Bank of America would do something to make themselves a little bit more attractive, you would be open to switching. If your probability of preferring Wells Fargo is 80% and Bank of America is 20%, it's probably no use of going after these customers, because they have such a strong loyalty, they have such a strong preference for that one brand, that they're not very likely to switch. Not that it's impossible for them to switch, but it's going to be very hard. Right. And what you want to do from a marketing perspective, you want to identify the low-hanging fruit. Which are the customers that I'm going to be most likely successful with if I approach them with a marketing campaign.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And then what would you say are like the top maybe 3 reasons why it's better than traditional just asking, would you be likely to switch? What makes this better? Is it the modeling? Is it the framework? What sort of things can you pinpoint?
Yeah, we get much better results than when you ask it directly. When you ask it directly, you don't get granular enough results. And so that's the main reason. To really fully explain that, I would probably need a PowerPoint slide then.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
but we have researched this quite extensively. So this method has a lot of benefits. The other benefit is that because it is part of a modeling framework, I can also do simulation. So I can say like, well, what if I would make my price lower? Or what if I would make ease of use better? Or what if I would add this feature? And I can see how that then impacts the likelihood of a particular person preferring a particular brand.
Right.
And that's important too, because it is one thing to identify the switchable consumers, but then the next thing that you need to do is you need to figure out like, okay, what levels do I need to pull to actually get them to tip over, right? And I can do that all in that same framework. If I ask people directly, well, which one are you considering or which one are you switching to? I do not have that information.
Got it. That makes sense. We have a question here from Nathan. He said, I think you would get more honest and accurate information. Is that what you see as well, Marco, when you run these?
Yeah, and more granular information as well, Nathan. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. And then what I was interested in is, from like a sampling perspective, do you need a certain percentage of customers and non-customers to run this model, or can you just run it with whoever comes in and then you identify it after the fact? How does that work from like a practical perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. So if you have a really simple situation with, let's say, 2 brands, right? And in my previous studies, the percentage of switchable consumers, it varies somewhere between 5% and let's say 15%. It can go, that's kind of the range. So let's say that you have 15% switchable consumers. So if I interview customers of brand B, who is my competitor, right? And I have 300 people in my sample, that means that 45 people are going to be switchable. That's not a huge amount. I probably want to have a little bit more to make some robust inferences, right?
Right.
So if you have 2 brands, then for each brand, I would probably say like you probably want to get at least 500 respondents per brand. You can do it with less, but if you go below that, it starts to get a little bit thin, right?
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. For people just joining, we're talking with Marco Vriens about the switchable consumer model. So, Marco, is there an industry or certain companies that this is a better fit for, or do you see it as pretty broad user base here, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think it is extremely well applicable to markets where people make explicit choices, and like, for example, credit cards or cars, or some type of insurance maybe, or some type of other service like a banking service. I have applied it to restaurants, and you can apply it to CPG, but then you probably would have to do a little bit of tweaking, because those those decisions that they work a little bit more differently than, let's say, choosing a credit card.
Sure.
But for any of these markets where there's an explicit, it works great in business to business. It was actually originally developed in a business to business context. So that's a great application. But any situation where there's an explicit choice, I think would be a fantastic application.
That makes sense. And then a little bit to that, we have another question from John Williams. He says, does a model work if you only test one brand at a time, or do you have to do the test side by side?
Yeah, you have to have at least 2 brands in the study.
Okay.
So that's the minimal, right? Because I want to try to model that competition, right? It's really a model to model the competition between 2 brands. But you can have more than 2 brands. You can have 3, 4, 5 brands. I mean, that is totally fine. That requires some adjustments in the modeling, but it's totally fine. So you would never just do one brand, and then you wouldn't be able to apply the model.
Got it. That makes sense. Another question from one of QuestionPro's own, Tim, is: are you able to market to specific customers, or are you looking for a buyer profile to conquest? So I think kind of similar to what maybe a little bit similar to what we were talking about. Is it specific customers or more of the buyer profile?
It's a great question, Timothy. Yeah, the way that is being implemented is that I do my model, I identify the switchable consumers, I identify the at-risk consumers. Then I profile these 2 groups and I compare them to how they, compare to the general target audience, right? And then once I have identified who these people are and where I can reach them, then I can go after them with a targeted marketing campaign, with a specific message. The message can be determined by what comes out of the modeling, and because I know who these people are, I can go, instead of like doing a general marketing campaign that I basically blast out to everybody in the market, and where I reach a whole bunch of people that are not movable. I'm now zooming in on the people who are most likely to move from one brand to the other. So that's why this approach really is fantastic in terms of amplifying the efforts of your marketing. Yeah,
I think it probably has a direct reflection on ROI as well, right? I mean, to make sure you're targeting the right people. I mean, how much money gets lost, and like you said, kind of spending money on people that are never going to switch. So this can definitely help focus those efforts.
And in the application where this was developed initially, in the marketing science literature, the business that applied this methodology was an industrial B2B company that was in their market at that time a really small player. So they didn't have the marketing budget, to compete with the big brands. So they had to be very efficient, and that's why they decided on this approach, because they could identify the switchable consumers, go very systematically after them, sometimes with direct marketing campaigns, sometimes with a targeted salesperson, efforts, with a very targeted message to very targeted customers, and little by little they chipped away, market share from the big brands, and ultimately they became the market leader by doing this. So it was a very impressive result.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Well, I think, if anyone's listening and they want to run a switchable consumer project or use this modeling, reach out to me, reach out to QuestionPro. We can help you out. And then obviously through Marco, we can make this happen. So Marco, thanks so much for the time today. Appreciate your dropping knowledge on us around switchable consumer, and
my pleasure.
Always good to catch up with you as well.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks. All right. Bye-bye. Nice.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, that was perfect. I love all the questions and things. That's exactly what we're going after. So that's perfect.
Yeah. I was looking, we do have one blog on switchable consumer on QuestionPro.com. So I'm going to find it real fast and drop it into the chat for anyone who, wants to words. You learn a little more.
Words are hard.
I know. I was like, I didn't get enough coffee. So
yeah, and that's actually kind of a little bit of a teaser to Switchable Consumer. I know Marco and I are going to be doing more marketing, and then probably a webinar even later this year around it. So I guess it's
November. The year only has like 6 weeks left, Dan.
In December, so maybe we'll do it in December. If not, Q1 of next year, but it's definitely something you'll be seeing more out of. So I wanted to get Marco on to have him talk about it, because it really is powerful for a lot of brands out there to identify that low-hanging fruit and spend your money wisely. especially during, these times that we're in now where budgets are probably getting tightened up. You got to make sure you're spending that money wisely here. So one thing I wanted to, the next thing is this data points. Interesting data point here that Tim actually gathered for me today was around Amazon. So Amazon's piloting these different methods of delivery, like, being able to drop packages or groceries in your garage with an app that you control. So Tim was interested in finding out, what do people think about this? Would they, would they allow Amazon to do this? I thought I wouldn't, but I'm not part of the majority here. It looks like 83% of people would allow this to happen. So I don't know.
What do you got, some sneaky stuff?
Garage, but people would. So
got some sneaky stuff in your garage? You don't want that Amazon guy leaving that package in there?
No, it seemed like riding my bike, going away or something. I don't
know. I think that also it's like the theory that it's safer because then you don't get your packages swiped.
Yeah.
And it just depends on like what you're buying. I think during the holidays, if you're getting more expensive packages, it's probably more likely that the people would be like, oh, who's opening the garage? Oh, it's the Amazon guy, because we have so much instant connectivity with devices that I could see that. But making sure that that door is locked between your garage and your house.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They're still like, I don't need them coming in. Just leave it on the porch. It's fine with me. But
but porch pirates, that's still happening. And you would think that they would learn, where's Tim? Tim, you should run another one. See if you can find some shenanigan people. Be like, how likely are you to steal a package off a porch with rings now? Because it still happens. And I'm like, it's confusing to me that people are still willing to do that when you can obviously catch them on camera.
Right. I think you should run something and like our porch pirates still out there, something like
yes or no. But that's, I think that I don't do Amazon groceries though. I live right across the street from a Whole Foods, so I feel like it's not appropriate to be like, hey, Amazon, please deliver groceries within sightline of my house.
be easy for them, cost effective,
Right. What book do you have back there today, Dan? I see some wine on it.
Oh yeah, this one. So, remember, like as a kid, those scratch and sniff books?
Yeah.
So this one is more for adults, though.
Can you read that? Scratch and sniff wine.
Yeah, so it's a scratch and sniff guide to becoming a wine expert.
Ooh, wait. Yeah. Have you guys used it?
I've used it a little bit here and there. Kind of goes over like the fruits and the wood and the dirt that was in. So it's kind of interesting.
Does it actually smell?
Sommelier.
Oh, did you know that there are less sommeliers in the world than there have been people who landed on the moon?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's a fun fact.
I really do love fun facts. Because becoming a sommelier at like the top tier level, because there's like different certificates you can get. Being like a top one is very difficult. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm digressing.
No.
In our live
this guy has a saying that wine is a grocery, not a luxury. So
I would agree with that.
You like that? So when you go to your Whole Foods, you need to put a bottle of wine in there, okay?
I don't buy wine from Whole Foods. It's expensive.
No, I'm just saying.
I was like, come on. I know that's marked up. But, I'm so excited for the holidays and for more Live with Dan throughout the year. But we are going to be taking a break for the holidays in December, right? We got 5 more of these to go. I just looked at my calendar. You can't tell.
Yeah, we'll take a break during the holidays, but then we'll come back in 2021, strong.
Yeah. And any teasers for who we're going to have next week?
Next week, I'm still working out the schedule, so we'll see, but it'll be a surprise. We'll get someone good on. I think, we had Stephen Krause last week. We had Marco today, so that was good. So we'll definitely get someone. Probably, I'm thinking maybe someone that can talk about our X Day in APAC that's coming up on the 1st of December. So if you're in the APAC region and you want to sign up, I just put the link in the comments for you. So that should be coming through.
Nice. Don't forget, we also have LATAM on the 25th down in Mexico, and our our German counterparts running their X Day on the 17th. Awesome. It's all on the homepage of the website. If you need to go to QuestionPro.com.
We have the 17th in DOC, the 25th in LATAM, and then the 1st in APAC. So I think that'll round out our X Day experience.
I know. And it's, it's all for our users. And so make sure that even if you joined one, try joining another one, because I know that during the Mino one, we actually talked, while sometimes things are the same, you actually, do hit on a lot of other like different variants because of just the questions that are asked. So it really was valuable, even if it was in the middle of the night.
No, it was super valuable. And we want interaction too. So, live questions and so forth. So we're not just talking into a void. So no, definitely join them. And even if you've come to one, like Crystal said, come to them all. Why not?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think let's end the show for today, but have a nice weekend. We'll catch up later.
Bye, Dan.